On Thursday,
Yeah.
Dak signs on Tuesday.
Okay. All right. I mean, you've been calling this. We'll see.
The top team in the NFC East, Ralph Acciano of FoxSports.com, drawing up an all-22 division roster that is full of Cowboys and Eagles. On offense, Dak got the nod over Jalen, but the Eagles have 6 players compared to the Cowboys' 4. On defense, the Cowboys are dominating. They've got 5 players compared to the Eagles' 2. So, Nick, overall, better roster belongs to who?
Well, so I think this is a great indication of why I do think all the Chicken Little stuff with Dallas and their disastrous offseason has been overstated. I do think they've done a very, very bad job of putting themselves in a better position than they ended last year. I think, if anything, they've gone a little bit backwards from last year because of the losses on the offensive line.
So that's a disaster.
But this roster still has a ton of talent, and it's still clearly the best defense in this division, and a coin flip for the best offense in this division. That really comes down to, in my opinion, the big gap between Dak and Jalen, how big you think it is and whether you think it's big or not. And I'm sure there's a lot of Eagles fans saying it is big and our guy has the edge on it. I don't look at it that way. That's fine. So I still think I think both these can be true. The Cowboys didn't go all in. They screwed up in talking about the running back in the draft. They have screwed up in these negotiations. And in my mind, they're the favorite to win the division. Doesn't mean I think it's going to go any differently than the last few Cowboys years. If you win double-digit games and then fall on your face in the playoffs. But so I know I'm not really answering the question. To me, it's a coin flip, and it comes down to the quarterback position. I like Dak more, so I'll say the Cowboys because the defense is so much better than the Eagles. But I think most football people, Greg, believe the Eagles roster's up here and the Cowboys is here, and I don't view it that way.
Yeah, I don't view it that way. I do think the Eagles roster is better. And the reason why I think the Eagles roster is better is because when I look at both sides of the ball, and this was kind of a hard question, to be honest, because when you look at the Eagles offense, I definitely think that they're better than the Cowboys offense.
I do too.
Across the board. I really do. Where the gap it closes drastically is when we look at both of these defenses. Because the Cowboys, the Eagles are nowhere near what the Cowboys are defensively.
Eagles were one of the worst defenses.
They were exactly. And however, I do believe, and this is how I had to look at it, if they are to go head to head.
You trust Jalen more?
No, it's not that I would trust Jalen more. I trust Jalen and the weapons that he has around him to support him more than what I feel like the Eagles. I don't think the Eagles will be as bad as they were defensively last year. However, their offense against the Cowboys' strength and their defense.
Okay. So.
And whether you think it's big.
Listen. Let me see if I can kind of bring up some of these names. Okay. The Dallas Cowboys got rocked and demolished at home, and there was no excuse for it. They were full strength, full everything. They got their head coach locked and loaded, ready to go. They had Dak Prescott 100% healthy. They had CeeDee Lamb. They had Micah. They had everything. They had the great coordinator in Dan Quinn. They had everything going for them. Nick Wright saying that they're going to go to the Super Bowl. And they get demolished at home with everything going in their favor. They have the momentum. They have the experience. They're at home. They're going up against a younger team, the youngest team, that has done nothing. And they get rocked. And then they do nothing to get better, as Nick Wright said, and they take a step back even. And you're now going to say that they have a better roster than the Philadelphia Eagles? That they're going to win the division and not the Philadelphia Eagles? Because in 22, the Philadelphia Eagles actually went to the Super Bowl, actually balled out, actually played great, actually did the things that you thought the Dallas Cowboys could do. And now they took a step back because of coordinating and because of injury in 23. But they didn't get worse. They didn't take a step back. Because you're going to say, well, the Eagles, they were bad and they also got beat in the first round, just like the Cowboys. But they got better. They got healthier. They got rocked in those playoffs because, one, they had 2 terrible coordinators. They had a fired coordinator and replaced them last minute, too, as well. In the middle of the season, near the end of the season. Disaster. A.J. Brown, injured, didn't play. Disaster. Jalen Hurts, bad knee, dislocated finger, disaster. A bunch of players that were retiring, that ran out of gas, that had nothing left, disaster. There are actual reasons that we can point to as to why the Eagles did not perform well enough last season. Concrete reasons. Health, players, roster selection, coaches. Very concrete reasons. That the Eagles then went out and fixed every single one of them. Whereas the Dallas Cowboys fixed exactly 0 of them. They didn't upgrade in coaching. They went backwards in coaching. They didn't upgrade in offensive weapons. They went backwards. They didn't upgrade defensively. They went backwards. They're going backwards. They can't even lock these guys up. Still, none of the 3 of those, Micah, CD, and Dak are even signed yet. Whereas the Eagles took care of business. They took care of AJ. They took care of Devontae. They took care of Saquon. Jalen Hurts has been taken care of. They went out and got the right coordinators. They got Kellen Moore. They got Vic Fangio. That matters tremendously. You cannot look at the Eagles unless you are super biased and say that they did not get better. And you can't look at the Cowboys and say that they got better. Nick Wright's obviously a big fan of the Cowboys, saying that they're going to the Super Bowl, all this type of stuff. And he even has to concede that they did not get better going into this season, that they went backwards. So please tell me why a team that's going forwards versus a team that's going backwards, why the team that's going backwards is somehow still going to be better than the team that's going forwards. Please tell me how that makes sense. And if you want to say that there's a big gap between Dak Prescott and Jalen Hurts, I will concede that Dak Prescott has been able to play more consistent over a longer period of time. Jalen Hurts has a smaller window. So you do have to give the consistency factor to Dak Prescott. That is something that you can't take away from Dak. Sorry, Eagles fans. With that said, Dak Prescott has never been able to do what Jalen Hurts has been able to do when it actually matters. He's actually been shown to ball out in the playoffs, in a Super Bowl, playing one of the greatest statistical Super Bowl performances of all time. It's not an opinion, it is a literal fact. People always in the comments want to come at me for that. It's not an opinion, it's a literal fact. It's a statistical fact. And he did it against a great team, the Kansas City Chiefs. That's why you can take that statistic in isolation. I'm a huge proponent that says numbers lie all the time. But when we're talking about some of these things, you can't deny it. It's undeniable. When someone balls out at the biggest stage, in the biggest moment, against one of the greatest teams of all time, we can't just say, oh, well, those numbers lie there. Because they don't. Especially watch the film, like I also keep saying. Go Google it. Go on YouTube, Jalen Hurts Super Bowl highlights. He absolutely balled out. Compare that to what Dak Prescott has done. Dak Prescott has never balled out in the playoffs, in the Super Bowl. He's never been to a Super Bowl. He's never been to an NFC Championship game. Has he put up numbers in the playoffs? Absolutely. And that's where some of those numbers lie. Watch the game. It's against a really awful team like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A team that is just falling apart. With a 97-year-old Tom Brady running up the score. Not in a close battle back and forth against none other than Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. That's the difference. That's the difference. So to kind of say what Greg was saying is that you trust Jalen with those weapons. With Saquon, with AJ, with Devontae, with Dallas Goedert. Having the line of Mailata and Lane Johnson. Those things matter. And to address the defense, just because the Dallas Cowboys have more known names doesn't mean that the Eagles are a bunch of scrubs. I do believe in what they drafted. I do believe in the pickups that they have now. I do believe in Vic Fangio getting that defense significantly better. And if the offense is significantly better for the Philadelphia Eagles, and the defensive gap between the Eagles and the Cowboys shrinks, which team are you going to go with? You're going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles. You're going to go with the team who has been to the Super Bowl the same number of times in the last 7 years that Dak Prescott has playoff wins. Who are you going to trust? The team that consistently is competing for the NFC Championship for a Super Bowl, wins a Super Bowl? Or are you going to go with the team and the quarterback that has consistently underperformed? Guys, the answer is so obvious. And to act like it's not is just disingenuous. But those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think? Who do you think has the better roster? The Eagles or the Cowboys? And who do you think is going to win the division? Because you can maybe say that you think the Cowboys have a better roster, but the Eagles end up winning the division or vice versa. Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so that you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.